You've spent the money on a heat tool, a special embossing ink, embossing powders, and you've done a few things. You've had some success. You've had some not so successful outcomes. You've purchased rubber stamps and had some modicum of good results. So, you know, for your $60 or more investment that is setting in your room somewhere, get it out. We're going to work on some stuff that is not going to involve rubber stamps. It's going to involve your imagination, and it's going to involve you not being critical of yourself. It is going to be making this an experiment to see what happens, to move you along from what your spark of idea is to what it finally becomes. This is no pressure, and you're not going to beat yourself up, and you're not going to get all frustrated with yourself and say, I am a failure, I can't do anything right. Because you are doing things right as you go along. Okay, so let's get started. It's time to experiment. We're going to be using embossing powders without rubber stamps. Let's get ready. Make sure we have all our safety gear on. Okay. In a minute, I'm not going to be able to see anything because I'm going to fog up my glasses. But we are experimenting with a sharp tool. Painter's tape that I've mangled in the past. But I do have one that is still in good shape. We are going to be using a heat tool, which will blow powders all over. I'm going to be using a clear embossing powder that's chunky. Some clear embossing powder that is fine. Some black fine embossing powder. This is from Michael's Recollections. This fine clear is from Stampin' Up. Thought I had it upside down. And this grainy clear is from Stampendous. All of my supplies are old. 7+ years old. So I don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to find out. Are you ready for the challenge? Well, come on. All right, to get the thinner lines on my crooked tape, I'm going to do 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch increments for the thinner stuff. So I'm going to, this is the straight edge. This is the outer edge of the tape that is straight. This edge is where I have cut it in the center and it's not straight. So on the straight edge, I'm going to set my ruler at 1/8 inch along the edge of the tape, and I think it's this end. Nope. It's the other one. And the reason why I'm doing that is so I can move over 1/8 of an inch to the next line. So I have 2 lines. Now that's a 1/4 of an inch wide, split in half. So I'm going to go to the next 1/8 inch. Now I have my 1/8 inch lines, and I can use my metal ruler now and line up on those, and then, sorry my arm is in the way, and then come down, and then I'll move on to the next line. So this one I'm going to peel off and throw away. Okay, so that's how easy it is to cut the tape into the widths that you want. All right, so I might have to cut another one to get this fully covered in squares. All right, I have one line going down the center here, and all the rest of them are going this way. So the next ones I'm going to do will be on either side of this center line. And I'm starting a grid. So now I'm going to continue out with the grid. All right, there I have my grid laid out. And what I'm going to do with the Versamark is I'm going to smear it all over this entire piece. Now, when I get it out onto this mat, I have I have a baby wipe that I can clean it up with. All right, so I'm going to ink this thing up. The whole thing. I'm making sure I get a lot of this on, and I can refill it later. All right, now, what I need to do is get my paper ready, and I'm going to be using some really thick grained clear embossing powder. This is by Stampendous, and it's called Deep Impression. All right. Now I'm just trying to get a corner up. And I will carefully lift all of these up. I'm going to set it on the paper and then put my embossing powder on. Now you might wonder why I'm not removing the tape to do this. Ooh. Okay, there. I want to make sure that I get full coverage. And tap off as much of the excess as I can. All right, now get this put back in the jar. Now, I've got to heat this up. And I'm going to heat it up right with the tape. Can you see how it's transforming? Alright, I think I've got it all. Alright, now I'm going to let this cool down for a minute before I peel the tape off. Alright, so take a look at what you've got and feel over it and make sure that it's not grainy. It will be grainy on the tape in some of the areas, but inside the boxes it shouldn't be. And you should be able to see that the entire piece has become shiny. All right. Now, peeling this up, by the very nature of this stuff, it comes up easily. And it doesn't tear your paper. Wait a minute, why didn't that come off? Oh, because it's underneath that one. What about this one? Yeah. All right. Now this would be a wonderful background for a card front or for a scrapbook page, whatever you want to do. And the neat thing about this is that it is a, I can't think what it is, resist. So you can take an ink pad and go over the top of this, and the ink will get in between the grooves where the tape was, and then you wipe it off. All right, I'm going to use the real red on this entire thing. And on my thing here. If this dries, that's all right, because the only ink that's going to come off is going to be on top of the heat embossing. And I'll try using this. What I want to do is drag that ink into the areas where I blocked it out with the masking tape. Now, you still have the shiny of the embossing powder, the heat embossing, and then you have some color from the ink pad. Now, as a card front background, this would be really unique. Put it on a scrapbook page and have a photo, a matted photo in the center. This would be a really good thing to do. All right, so right in here, in this area here, right inside there, I'm going to use my Versamark pad. I am going to put some clear powder all over. And I have UFOs in my embossing powder. Unidentified foreign objects. But you can see the embossing powder, and you can see where I got the ink outside of the area. It looks like, well, I guess it would be this way. And I did that with this one and couldn't really see the impression that was left over here, so I thought, I wonder. So I used this. This is a StazOn pen, watermark pen. And it has two, there's a brush end, and there's a small end, a writing tip like, and then there's this one. and it has some funky stuff going on, but you just wipe that off with a Kleenex. So I use that down these lines. And I used black embossing powder, but the more each line that I went to, then the embossing powder disappeared, and all that was left was the dark thing. It's not shiny. The line of the embossing powder and creating this grid, then you can see, maybe not, there. My embossing powders are really old. 8 to 10 years old. Now with the black, you can see where I went over with that embossing ink. So I'm going to try to get that off. Alright, so there it is. And the outside stuff, some of that will come off. Not all of it, but some of it will. And when you're doing something new, always, expect failure when you're trying something brand new. When you don't have something from somebody else to guide you, always expect failure. Do not get disheartened from the failure. It's something for you to learn from. And by dealing with failure and learning, you end up with success. Okay. I hope you've enjoyed this video. And if you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, hey, you know your other option. If you haven't subscribed already, then please do. I appreciate every one of you that subscribe and that leave comments. So I want to thank you all for stopping by and watching this newest video. I certainly hope that it helps to spark your imagination and take it to a different level.